Meanwhile, the disappearance of an 18-year-old college student in Virginia sent shockwaves around the country. Hannah Graham vanished in September of 2014. Her remains were found more than 2 months later. Then came a major twist in the case, and forensic evidence linked the suspected killer to other unsolved crimes in the area. Our Susan Spencer has a preview of her report for tomorrow's 48 Hours.
Hannah Graham went missing more than a year and a half ago.
We're going to continue to work relentlessly till we find Hannah Graham, because it's been a week and we can't find her.
Her parents, John and Sue Graham, made desperate appeals for help.
She's our only daughter, and she's enormously precious to us all.
Hannah was last seen alive in surveillance videos. Charlottesville attorney Lloyd Snook walked us through them.
This is McGrady's, a restaurant, and you'll see Hannah Graham coming in from the left, the lower left. She's highlighted.
She seems a little unsteady on her feet, both here and later on in the video.
She is next seen on camera at the Charlottesville downtown mall. Surveillance tapes also capture a man walking in the foreground.
You'll notice he's a pretty distinctive looking guy.
He is 32-year-old Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr., seen in the last video walking with Hannah.
Jesse Matthew Jr. was indicted for abduction and murder of Hannah Graham.
His indictment leads to a bombshell.
DNA science is ultimately what connected 3 separate cases.
Jesse Matthews' DNA would link him to the rape of a young woman nearly a decade ago and to the slaying of 20-year-old Morgan Harrington.
We are part of a club. We're part of an ugly little club.
Jill Harrington's daughter Morgan was abducted and murdered in 2009.
Jesse!
Last September, Jesse Matthew was also charged with her murder. 1 man, 3 brutal crimes. The rape trial would come first. The victim stood bravely facing her attacker, and Jesse Matthew would take a plea. Commonwealth attorney Ray Morrow.
We wanted to take him off the street. This is step 1.
Hannah Graham's case would be next, but this time Jesse Matthew was facing the death penalty. Then in March, just months before that trial was to begin, an announcement.
Today, Jesse Matthew Jr. pled guilty to the first-degree murder of Hannah Graham and guilty to the first-degree murder of Morgan Harrington.
I would say the primary emotion is relief. Finding justice for Morgan has been a burden on our family for 6.5 years.
Hannah's enduring gift to us all is that she enabled this wicked man to be apprehended and convicted. She did change the world, but at a terrible price.
Here with more on this case and really these cases, 48 Hour senior executive producer Susan Zirinsky. Z, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hannah Graham, it resonated particularly with the country and obviously had a great impact here on the cases that it would help close. But take us back just a couple of years now to this time. What was it about this case?
This is the place where things are not supposed to happen. Charlottesville, Virginia, UVA, school, kids. It occurred in a pedestrian area where there are just tons of people. And what was very eerie was Hannah Graham was captured on surveillance tape. As she was looking, it looked like she was looking to find some friends. And in a second video, you see the man who would ultimately be charged with her murder walking separately. He was kind of a distinctive guy. He was bulky. He was wearing all white. He had dreadlocks. And ultimately, in one of the 3rd or 4th video, you see them walking. She's not being dragged. They're kind of walking in tandem. The thing that's so unusual about this is that there were 2 cases pending in the area: a rape of a decade ago of a young woman, and the murder of Morgan Harrington, who had been to a Metallica concert in 2009, a Virginia Tech student. Interestingly enough, the DNA on Morgan Harrington and the DNA on the rape victim matched, but there was no match in CODIS, in the main national computer system for DNA. When Hannah Graham went missing, and when Hannah Graham ended up being found, and they tracked the person in that surveillance tape, that was the breakthrough. DNA ultimately linked these 3 cases together. And in our show, we bring you all forward and say, what is justice? Look, there was a very interesting plea deal that was on the table here. And I think that Jesse Matthews, having faced the rape trial first, he was off the street, but the death penalty was next. There was a plea that they considered, and you have to watch the show to find the end game, but in essence, it's called the Alford Plea. And that's a plea where a perpetrator can say, I'm not admitting guilt, but I know that a reasonable court of law might find me guilty. So there's that. I think ultimately the families really didn't want to have to go through a trial, the Grahams and the Morgan Harringtons. So justice is done, but what is fair when somebody has perpetrated a crime like this and death goes off the table?
We did see a member of the Harrington family speak to this ugly little club, and that there is perhaps relief, but certainly no solace here. I know this is a familiar thing for you folks at 48 Hours when you see these sorts of cases, but it's hard to watch.
Well, but there's something interesting. Jill Harrington has become very active, and I bet you the Grahams become active. They have an organization called Save the Next Girl, and it's almost like the case of rape, that you have people who really are mobilized by something that happens. It's a terrible event. She lost a child. There's a rape here, and when people are motivated to act, and it comes from the heart and it comes from a personal experience, I think it resonates with everybody that much more. It's
impossible to not speak about this and not be thinking about the case I spoke of just before you joined us with regard to the sexual assault at the party on the Stanford campus.
Ultimately, it's up to families and victims and advocates to kind of step in and take it. We can have all the laws in the land, but if people aren't activists, nothing will happen.
Hear, hear. Z, as always, this is going to be a good one, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You can watch Susan Spencer's full report, Hannah Graham, Deadly Connections, on a special extended edition of 48 Hours. Do not miss it. Tomorrow night, beginning at 9, 8 Central on CBS.